Let's look at how to draw a complex roof with extended rafter eaves with sloping undersoffits at the eaves and rakes. We start by using push-pull to extrude the basic building form. Always start by setting the top plate height. In this case, we'll use 9 feet. Let's make it a little more interesting by making a higher shed roof in this area of the building. I'll increase the plate height by 2 foot for this area. We'll now draw in an edge to define the limit for the main roof volume at one end of the building. Let's orbit around to the back side and draw in the undersoffit for this porch area. Now I'll draw in the width of the roof by inferring out in space from each end of the undersoffit. This gives me a single edge indicating the full width of the roof. Now, by locking the protractor to the narrow end of the house using Shift, I can place a construction line at a roof slope of 6/12 coming off the edge we just drew. Now I have a midpoint for the entire width that I can infer from up to the roof slope construction line. This draws in the gable end. We can now select this surface and move it back to the face of the building. Using push-pull on the triangle, I can extrude the main roof as a volume over the majority of the building. And I'll do the same thing for the other end of the house. Draw out in space to create the undersoffit, then create a similar gable triangle out from the building face, and push-pull the triangle as a roof volume to meet the main roof. Now I can erase out unneeded edges to clean up the model as I proceed. Now we have the basic form for the main house. For the higher shed, I copy the roof slope out by dragging on an edge with the tape measure tool and place it at the corner of the higher plate. Now with the pencil I can lock to infer along the direction back to the intersection with the opposite roof slope and draw back down to the main ridge. By closing this into a surface I can use push-pull. I can reverse the face to keep the outside color consistent. I pull it right over the top of the other roof and erase out the edges I don't need. I've now got the entire roof in place with proper roof planes at the correct slopes. Now we can add depth to each area of the roof. This will create surfaces I can extrude for rafter ends. I'll start by extruding with push-pull one roof surface, and I'll type 8. Now by double-clicking on each successive face I can repeat the last 8-inch amount of push-pull offset. Now taking the pencil tool I draw in edges connecting the lower part of each push-pull surface. This will create faces I can use to pull out the overhangs at the gable rakes. I do that all the way around the roofs on every segment where I want to create an overhang. Now using push-pull I can pull out the rake overhang to 24 inches. Notice that this creates the sloping undersoffit at the same time. Just double-click on each of the surfaces I just defined to repeat the process all around. Notice that the eave fascia has already been created from the first set of push-pulls, so all I do is just double-click on them to extend the eaves 2 feet as well. I just go around the model and do this for every overhang. Now I can erase out common edges to clean up the model a little. I can also turn on transparency and clean out the inside of the model from extraneous faces. It just makes the model file size a little bit smaller and cleaner. Now let's reconcile all the ridge edges. We'll zoom in and use the tape measure tool to create a construction line in line with the rake slope. Then I select the ridge line to move. Starting at the end point, I can lock the inference direction, holding down Shift, along the construction line and move it up to where it would intersect the opposing roof slope. Then I reconcile the ridge line up to the same point. Do the same thing here. Select the ridge line, lock the inference direction along the construction line touch on the plane to align it, grab the other ridge line, move it up to connect, then erase out extraneous lines. Now I can trace out where the edges intersect with the roof planes to stitch together the intersection of the overhang with the lower roof. So I'll erase the extra geometry. Then put in the knee wall above the lower roof by tracing back in any needed edges to heal the surface. There we go. Just right-click to reverse a face to keep the colors similar inside and out. I can do that same thing on the other side of the upper roof. Now on this end, the ridge line's already in the right place, so I don't need to worry about it. But I do need to reconcile the lower roof ridge because it was broken by the upper shed form. So I'll drag with the tape measure tool, drag a construction line in line with the roof. Select it, lock the inference direction, infer the plane, select the other ridge line, move it from the intersection back up to the new ridge line. Trace in with the pencil where those surfaces intersect. And erase out unneeded geometry, and if I need to, trace back in an erased surface. And do this at each ridge of the house. I can also create columns at the porch corners by drawing rectangles directly on the undersoffit and using push-pull to infer the base to the base of the house. I can even move the underframing down to match the eave height. And that's how you do it.